Hey guys, Halen, CEO and founder of ScaleMate. Today I am going to be dissecting a real life prospect discovery call. For privacy reasons, I'm going to cut out their side of the conversation, obviously. You'll hear my questions and then I'm going to dissect it, give you the reasoning why I ask those questions during my discovery process. So let's get into it.
So you're looking basically to, the way I see it, is get a couple of quick wins in the US, probably, and then use that to go raise your next round.
Okay, so the reason why I asked that, it's part of my qualification process. So my ICP is B2B SaaS founders, early stages. The propensity for them to buy my services goes up drastically, significantly higher if they've just raised a funding round. So the reason why I asked that question, I was trying to understand, he's already raised a round. Are our services dependent on him raising his next round, or is he going to fund it with his initial funding that he had?
You said you're time poor right now.
Okay, so the reason why I ask if you're time poor is because if you are time poor, I have a service where it's just done for you, right? You don't have to worry about it. You pay me, I get you the results. You don't really have to know the ins and outs of what I do in the process, and I'm not training you on how to do it and all that stuff. The other service that I have is done with you. This is for people who have a solid percentage of their time dedicated to business development, meaning I can then enable them to run these automations, build the workflows, use the right systems, all that sort of stuff. So two separate services. I'm trying to gauge which one's correct for him at this stage in his growth.
The right place to start is with your existing customer base. Like, it's the easiest stuff, like easiest wins, right? We're already working with you in the UK, in Scotland, whatever. By the way, we know you have US operations. Like, let's chat, introduce me to the right people, whatever. Where I'm getting at is, like, is that a better job for the person who owns the relationship to do, or is it an outsourced provider? I would probably lean towards the former because you've got the relationship, right? So that makes sense for you to talk to your contact or a couple other contacts, and then try to leverage that relationship into the US. But your time poor, so it's hard. I get it. Where I might be able to help, or where a provider might be able to help, is if that doesn't work, mapping out essentially a new prospecting route for that company, but in the US, right? But it's pretty much cold because you weren't able to leverage your existing relationship into the US. That's where I think it would make sense for.
Okay, so in this situation, we were discussing his expansion into the US from the UK, right? So he's in the United Kingdom, he's got a customer base there, he wants to expand into America. We were going back and forth on cold outbound, warm outbound, different strategies in the US, and then he said he wants to leverage his existing customer base in the UK to get into their US operations, because some of his customers have a global footprint with big offices and big businesses in the US. Basically, this isn't even a tactic, this is just being honest, but it has the same effect as like a sales tactic because it builds trust. I said, you should focus on your existing customer base yourself, leverage the relationship you have to expand into America. Now that shuts out my services. I've just said, hey, you're actually the right person to do this. That kind of shuts out my services, which ultimately builds trust, but it is the correct thing to do. Then I suggested, I'll do all the cold outreach. Plus, if you're not able to leverage your relationships in the UK to get to America, I'll also build you a new prospecting list of your existing customer base, but in the US, their operations. So like the counterparts that you don't know, that you weren't able to get introduced to. So it's not a sales tactic, it's just being honest, like what would actually work for this customer, and it has the effect of building trust.
Again, just from an initial conversation standpoint, is because you're so time poor, not overly cash rich right now, which is fine. Starting with a combination of a couple of things that I think the second thing I mentioned will be interesting to you, because every single person I mention it to, they love it, and it works across the board. So getting a mapped out list of your accounts, whether it's 10, 15, 20, whatever, and then getting those contacts in the US, you split up your time with going after the people that you have a relationship with and don't let me touch those. And then I go after all the like colder accounts that you're working with in other markets around the world, map out the US, we send them messaging, email, LinkedIn, we can talk about all that stuff. That's one bucket. The second bucket, you just mentioned that there's a lot of companies doing a similar thing in the US that raised $200-300 million. I'm sure they've got a pretty large customer base, relatively large in the US, and they're probably contacts and companies that you'd be interested in as well, most likely. I have a way to go after those people. So if they follow your competitors on LinkedIn, I can get that data. That data will be filled with random people as well. It'll be filled with HR people you don't want to target, you just told me. It will probably be filled with CIOs and CTOs and VPs of engineering, VPs of technology and whatever, the people you do want to target. So my job is to filter by your ICP, and then go after those people. They could be existing customers of your competitors. They could be super high intent prospects, which are actually the better ones to go after, in most cases anyway. So those campaigns, I've never seen a campaign perform consistently across industries as well as that. Like it's just the number one thing I've ever seen on, and I do it specifically on LinkedIn. That's why I'm so bullish on it. I've never seen anything like it. Like 60% acceptance rates, 25, 30% reply rates. Like it's insane. If you had to give me an idea, what's a close rate for you? So you have 10 meetings. How many people do you think and I know it's enterprise, so it's like takes a long time to close these deals probably. What is it, 10%? Are you closing 20% of conversations, 50? Like what's the rough?
Okay, so the reason why I ask what their close rate is, I'm going to use that in my next call. Remember, this is a first call for a customer, discovery call. I was actually introduced warm to this guy from a partner a long time ago. I ask that because that is going into my calculations of return on investment. So if he tells me they close 10% of conversations, 20%, 50%, whatever it is, I'm going to use that to then calculate the ROI for them so they don't have to do it.
Are you open to a meeting whenever next week?
So that's all tips and tricks from a live discovery call. I'm going to do many more of these into the future, discovery calls, pitching calls, closing calls, you name it. And hopefully you get some value from it. So thanks for watching.